Hello, you're watching Economic Stories, and I'm your narrator. Don't forget to leave a like and hit subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's get started. When most Americans think of Japan, what comes to mind? Mario, trains so clean you could eat off the floor, and a country so peaceful the police spend their days hunting for stolen bicycles. It is the land of the cute, where violence is strictly reserved for manga pages. They even have a famous constitution that basically says, war, no thank you, we don't do that anymore. Essentially, after 1945, Japan went into military hibernation, leaving the fighting to the big boys while they focused on inventing the PlayStation. But hold your boba tea, because that image is dead. Right now, Japan is undergoing the most dramatic military transformation since Godzilla first stomped on Tokyo. And no, they aren't doing it for a movie set. The reason is simple. Japan is preparing for a war it desperately hopes never happens. A war with China over a little island called Taiwan. This is the absolute main character of all current geopolitical drama. For Americans, this matters more than you realize. If World War III kicks off in the Pacific, it won't start in Washington or Hawaii. It will start from Japan. Why? Because Japan is essentially America's largest unsinkable aircraft carrier. To understand why, we don't need hypothetical scenarios anymore. We just need to look at what happened 2 months ago, November 2025. Japan's prime minister made a statement that caused historians to drop their jaws. She declared, "A Chinese attack on Taiwan constitutes a survival-threatening situation for Japan." That phrase wasn't just word salad. In Japanese legal speak, a survival-threatening situation is the cheat code that allows them to enter the chat. It greenlights Japan to use military force to defend an ally, even if Japan itself hasn't been touched yet. Translated into plain English, Japan said, "If China touches Taiwan, we in the US are jumping in together." This was the first time a Japanese PM openly slammed this card on the table. Very slay, but also terrifying. How did Beijing react? Absolute fury. Diplomatic threats, military pressure, economic retaliation. Basically the geopolitical equivalent of unfriending, blocking, and doxing. But for Japan, this wasn't provocation. It was realism. Japan understands something most Americans are only just starting to grasp. If China moves on Taiwan, Japan cannot stay out of it. Geography simply doesn't allow them to be a neutral pick-me-girl. Look at the map. Japan's Yonaguni Island sits just 110 kilometers from Taiwan. You know how close that is? That's closer than Miami is to Key West. Someone with good eyesight on Yonaguni can basically check the weather in Taiwan. Imagine China conducting live fire drills in your backyard in Florida. That is exactly how Japan feels right now. The Taiwan War isn't some faraway issue. It's happening on their front porch. And there's another factor, US bases. Okinawa hosts over 30,000 American troops. If the US wants to save Taiwan, they must use these bases. There is no other way. From China's perspective, the logic is simple. If the US uses Japanese bases to hit us, we must destroy those bases first. And boom, Japan is dragged into the war from minute one. There is no watch add to skip option here. This is why Japan no longer sees Taiwan as a neighbor's problem. They see it as existential. And that is why they are rearming at a pace that has the rest of the world saying, what the hell? In 2026, Japan announced it would double defense spending. By next year, 2027, the budget hits $80 billion. That puts them in the same league as the UK. But it's not just money. Japan is buying toys that were once considered taboo. Long-range cruise missiles, stealth fighters, aircraft carrier. These things aren't for defense in the sense of sitting there and taking a beating. They are buying hundreds of US-made Tomahawks. With GPS guidance and terrain-hugging tech, these turn Japan from a meat shield into a sniper. The message is clear. If you think about shooting me, I'm blowing up your launcher first. And let's not forget nearly 150 stealth F-35 seconds. Japan is becoming the second largest operator in the world, right after the US. This is the most expensive, bougie, and deadly plane in the sky. Japan is going full all-in mode. They're also modifying Izumo-class destroyers to launch fighters. Basically, they're aircraft carriers, but Japan calls them multi-purpose destroyers. It's like calling a pizza open-faced toast so you don't feel guilty about your diet. Underwater, Japan's subfleet is expanding. These are silent killers designed specifically to hunt Chinese subs. The goal? Turn the waters around the first island chain into a nightmare for the enemy. All of this is happening for one reason: China. Over the last decade, China has pumped its military muscles like a bodybuilder on steroids. Their missile stockpiles have exploded. China now has hundreds of missiles that can reach every corner of Japan. Recently, they dropped missiles right inside Japan's exclusive economic zone. That wasn't an accident. It was a DM saying, "I know where you live." For Japan, if Taiwan falls, the power balance shifts overnight. The first island chain would be broken. It's like the main gate of the castle being smashed open. But scarier than bombs is the economy. Nearly 90% of Japan's energy imports pass through waters near Taiwan. 90%. If that route is cut, Japan's economy suffocates faster than you hitting snooze on a Monday. No oil, no gas, game over. Japan understands that in a Taiwan war, they don't need to be invaded to be defeated. They just need to be cut off. China just needs to choke the maritime throat. Ruthless, but effective. And we can't ignore the history card. For China, Japan rearming is like poking an old wound that never healed. Japan was the main villain in China's century of humiliation. Beijing doesn't see modern Japanese tanks as defense tools. They see ghosts of past invasions. This makes the situation way more dangerous because emotions override logic. Neither side believes they can back down without looking like a loser. That is the perfect recipe for disaster. But there is one more factor keeping Japan awake at night: the United States. Japan's rearmament isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening because Tokyo isn't 100% sure Washington will always be there. America First rhetoric shook Japanese confidence. Japan knows the US military is stretched globally. In a crisis, Japan can't just sit around waiting for Captain America. So Japan is preparing to carry its own weight. For the US, this is both reassuring and scary. Reassuring because they have a buff partner. Scary because the stronger Japan gets, the higher the tension with China. But Japan has a fatal weakness: demographics. Who's going to hold the gun? Grandpa? Recruitment for the self-defense forces is struggling big time. Fancy guns are just expensive paperweights if there's nobody to pull the trigger. To fix this, Japan is pouring cash into drones and AI. Robots don't need pensions and don't feel fear. This might be the future, a literal cyborg army. And the psychology. For decades, their military was for show. They haven't tasted modern combat. However, there's a vibe shift among Japanese youth. Pragmatism is replacing naive idealism. They realize the world isn't just rainbows. War isn't just shooting. China loves gray zone tactics, using militia fishing boats to harass, salami slicing tactics. Japan is getting a migraine dealing with this gameplay. The biggest taboo: nukes. Japan has the tech to build a bomb in months. Right now, they say no, but if the US abandons them, anything is possible. This is the ultimate wild card. Japan is also cozying up to Australia, the UK, and South Korea. They want a thick security web. It's like diversifying your insurance portfolio. Diplomacy is working overtime, but hope isn't a strategy. Preparation is. The US-Japan Security Treaty is the most important paper in the region. But will ink on paper turn into blood on the battlefield? Only time will tell. Remember, if war hits, the global economy collapses. This is about your wallet. We are now looking at the 2026 window, the year intelligence agencies warned China could be ready to move. Japan is racing against that clock. Japan is best in cherry blossom season. Let's hope those petals are never obscured by gunpowder smoke. From space, Earth looks chill, but down there, it's boiling. Japan is the epicenter of the coming quake. In the end, the US-Japan friendship gets tested. Not with words, but with fire and steel. Fun tip: if you want to visit Okinawa, go now. Enjoy the beach before it becomes an F-35 runway. Recap: geography forces them. The US pushes them. Fear of China wakes them. Japan is awake, and this dragon has claws too. To world leaders, please keep a cool head. We have Netflix shows to finish. Don't push the red button. The clock is ticking. Tick-tock. 2026 is just around the corner. Are you ready? The irony is, the more Japan hates war, the more they must prepare for it. That is the paradox of peace in the 21st century. What do you think? Is Japan on the right track, or adding fuel to the fire? Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch the updates before they become history. See ya! Thanks for watching. Knowledge is power, and you got a bit stronger today. Bye!